The Masters of Wisdom speak on the harvest of life. The Bridge to Freedom Journal, September 1954. Lord Maha Choan. The individual who begins, even intellectually, to understand that his purpose in being is centered upon a more lasting goal than the gaining of the whole world at the expense of his soul, is one marked out for special assistance from the Brotherhood. Why? Because he is ready to perform the greatest renunciation of the personal self in asking how he may serve life, help to sow the seeds, and later to reap the harvests of impersonal blessings for the race to which he belongs. Each individual has applied for the use of primal, neutral, obedient, unformed life. With this life, each one has experimented, forming it into molds of the mind, energizing these molds with the feelings and driving into the universe the heterogeneous mass of experimental material which forms the impersonal heritage of the evolution to which he belongs. Then, on the return current of these waves of energy, each one is reaping the personal harvest of his own indiscriminate sowing. Someday, each man will ask him how to sow the energy of life into a designed, planned, constructive pattern, whose harvest can be as surely foretold as can the farmer's harvest, according to the spring planting of his tilled fields. Ascended Master Elmoira. This is the season of the harvest. The blessed tillers of the fields gather the fruits of their labors and rejoice in the multiplying powers of nature, seeing the one become the many. A few think of the magnificence of the powers that provide for the succession of each species in another spring, as well as for the plentiful supply to sustain the bodies of the mankind so dependent upon sweet nature for their very existence. All rejoice in the personal return gleaned from the toil, the labors of the season. It reminds us of the spiritual sowing, where so much depends upon the voluntary contribution of the recipient of our seeds, that we may find a harvest of works well done when the time of gleaning comes. Ascended Master Cathum. The only lasting harvest of the soul is the gathered momentum of specifically qualified energy that lives in the causal body around the presence of each life stream. When the individualized intelligence is created, the rays of light passing from the spiritual heart create a pure, white force field or spiritual aura. The use of energy, its qualification, and the return of the result of that qualified energy into the causal body build the colors into the causal body before the life stream ever takes embodiment. From the time the individual takes the first physical incarnation, the harmoniously qualified energy used by that individual in every lifespan rises up into and becomes part of the bands of color that make up the causal body. It is the treasure stored up in heaven. Life used for no good purpose does not so rise, but becomes part of the mass accumulation of heavily charged discord, which is referred to as the astral or psychic realm. Man is either building the size, strength, and power of his causal body through harmoniously qualified directed energies, or he is building the shroud of unhappiness in which the entire race moves. The size of the causal body of every being, ascended or unascended, differs according to the amount of energy drawn forth from the universal, the length of time of individualization, and the amount of energy utilized for good out of the entire store drawn forth by such a one. Ascended Master Paul, the Venetian Master. The color bands of each one's causal body differ according to the particular interests of the life stream through the ages. The channels through which the energy flowed determined the color of the primal life, qualified by the individual, which becomes a part of the causal body. Those who have given most of their energies to healing have a predominance of gold or violet and pink in the causal body. Men and women who have served primarily in positions of governmental authority and executive directors have a predominance of blue in the causal body. These qualified momentums are used constantly by the electronic presence of each life stream serving at cosmic levels. For the most part, with the exception of the highly developed chelas, little of this momentum is used by the personality. The release of the momentum, gifts, powers, activities, and spiritual treasures of the causal body through the personal self of an unascended being is determined by the control of the individual over the energy already in his possession and under his qualifying, governing power. That is why harmony is stressed for those so eager to have the use of the powers and the glory which they knew before the world was. Ascended Master Sarapus Bey. The aura around the physical body is a personal force field. It should be a replica of the causal body which pulsates around the electronic presence, even as the physical body itself should be a replica of that very electronic presence. We find the two types of applicants for spiritual instruction: those interested only in mastering the energy of their personal egos, the force field around the physical body, and those interested in serving life without sufficient personal application to make them worthy servers. The first group do not evince interest in the ephemeral, to them, causal body, and the second group do not evince interest in the balanced control of the vehicles presently working in this world. We are the bridge builders, drawing together the diversities of interest and out of the many applicants, finding the few who can become the balance between individual self-mastered egos and cosmic servers while learning. At Luxor, we examine the causal body to see if selfish interest motivates the desire for knowledge. If the causal body shows no appreciable size, color, balance, nor momentum through ages past, we know immediately that such a one is primarily interested in gifts for self, and such individuals cannot be accepted. For we are pledged only to serve those who love life itself, not just the use of life. Ascended Master Hilarion. The causal body is the record which may be read by any ascended being, and within it is proof of what the life stream has done since the beginning of opportunity in incarnation millions of years ago. The causal body is the determining factor in the choice and acceptance of all individuals who are going to be called upon to render a more than ordinary service to mankind. The causal body never lies. Wise is the man or woman who chooses, while laying up the stores of security on earth, to build into that causal body some permanent momentum to show as a reason for an entire embodiment on earth. At the end of each earth life, when the lords of karma examine the souls, the causal body of each one is examined. First, as it was before birth into that incarnation, and then as it is at the end of the earth life. Nothing else is the harvest of lasting value. Every other gained possession is dropped with the outworn physical garment. When the causal body glows with added violet bands of mercy, with golden bands of wisdom, with pink bands of practical brotherhood in works, not words, then the soul can sing and the sponsor rejoice in his invested energies as well. Ascended Master Jesus, I constantly admonished those kind enough to find merit and comfort in my counsel that the lasting treasures were builded in heaven. That priceless gift of life given to each incarnate soul must be appreciated and woven into some good reason for being, aside from the personal interests and accomplishments which benefit only self. Those who build thus in heaven are fortunate indeed, for as the causal body grows in size and power and strength, each such a one becomes a cosmic being, even before the ascension of the outer self. Ascended Master St Germain, I long for the day when the individual sphere of influence of each student is so balanced, so poised, so harmonious, that the tremendous stored energies of each one's causal body may be conducted through the personal aura for the blessings of the individual and the race. Those momentums of healing power, of precipitation, of illumination, gathered through many ages, stand ready and waiting the uninterrupted harmony of the outer self. And I stand waiting that day to see the rejoicing in the harvest when it is in the hands of the faithful.